It's a typical Tuesday night listening to the that doesn't like. You'll never know your story like I do. Yo, she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts. She's cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers. Dreaming about the day when you search and find it. What you're looking for has been here the whole time. You can see that I'm the one that understands you. Been here all along, so why can't you see? You belong with me. You belong with me. So you ever been in a gang and then over the years the gang start cross dressing a lot way more and then they start throwing a lot of gay festivals and then they start sneaking all type of illegals into the country and then taking money out the government's cookie jar to pay for the illegals. And then when you try to tell them, hey, this isn't why I joined the gang, they do a whole smear campaign on you and say that you lost all your marbles when you clinically depressed after you just had a stroke. Well, that's what happened to Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. And now he's basically trying to distance himself from the Peking gang. Fetterman has represented Pennsylvania for almost 20 years now, and he's basically a fixture in the state. And politically, the state has changed. Politically, the country has changed. Yet Democrats are still the same and are still pushing this anti-American agenda on us. I told John Fetterman that he can't be one of Trumpito's Avengers until he takes them hoodies and them gym shorts off and comes to work like he's a real senator. But he doesn't have a suit on yet, but at least his shirt has a collar now. And where I'm from, we call that progress. My name is Marcus Russell. This is the Marcus Russell Show. Now, check it. In this CNN interview, Fetterman was basically like, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not like them dumbass Democrats. He said, just because a lot of Democrats don't believe in the ideology that the politicians are pushing, that doesn't mean that they are fascists or that they support fascism. And saying stuff like Trumpito is like Hitler is a comparison that you should never use. I agree. And he's like, you should never say stuff like that unless it's completely applicable. Fetterman has been applying to be one of Trumpito's Avengers position for over a year now. And maybe now that he's wearing pants to work again, he might actually get a chance. Make sure you tap that like and subscribe button. Let's get right to the video.
State of Pennsylvania in 2022, despite suffering a stroke that impacted his speech. The following year, he checked himself into Walter Reed Hospital for 6 weeks as he battled clinical depression. Now he's defined himself in a different way, an outspoken critic of his party, particularly its left flank. Now, moments after Charlie Kirk was shot and right before we learned he had died, I sat down with Fetterman to discuss the issues dividing his party as it charts its way forward.
I'm never going to change my party, but clearly we've lost the argument, and right now I think it's entirely appropriate to really be honest and just figure out why exactly have we effectively lost 2 out of the last 3 cycles, and a lot of the things we've really kind of really lost our connection with American voters in ways. And I think we can't just be, well, Trump is always wrong, or that we're going to set the country on fire or whatever. That's just not true either, of course. But, you know, when I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest. And you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists or now they want to shred the Constitution.
But when you hear some Democrats saying Trump is acting like an autocrat,
yeah, no, that's the thing. If you actually compare him to an actual autocrat, that is not just that. Now, last night, for example, people were complaining. They were protesting about, oh, that's the Hitler thing. You just don't ever compare anyone to Hitler and those kinds of extreme things. And now look what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, you know, the man was shot. Now we have to turn the temperature down. It's like we can't compare people to these kinds of figures in history. And this is not an autocrat. This is a product of a democratic election.
So you don't think that Trump is at all shattering any of the norms of democracy in any way?
I'm saying he's definitely different, but that's what America voted for. Again, I don't agree with many of these things, but that does not make him an autocratic.
But one of the things that I hear from Democrats a lot saying a reason why voters may not like Democrats is because they don't fight hard enough. Democrats should be fighting harder. What do you say to folks who say that?
What exactly is fighting? What is fighting? Delay more votes, or just vote every no on everything, or saying, well, if they're doing X, well, then that means it's wrong, that kind of a thing. It's like, what exactly is fighting?
I'll give you an example. It could be shutting the government down. Like some Democrats say, if this happens, it'll be Trump's fault.
That's not fighting. That's mutilating our nation. If you vote to shut our government down, you are going to harm millions of Americans. And why would you do this? Where's our leverage? It was wrong. It was wrong for the Republicans to do that. Absolutely, that's true. It was wrong for the Republicans to do that. It would just be wrong for us for those things.
Bigger picture, has your party shifted or have you shifted ideologically?
My party is acting in a way they have forgotten. They have forgotten one of the reasons why we lost in 2024.
Facts.
Some of the most extreme things were weaponized against that. And now some people think now we have to double down on those things, or we must become more progressive or more extreme. That's absolutely not true. The 7 or 8 states that are going to determine who's going to be the next president, we have to win in those states. And I understand what that takes. And a lot of these ideas that are now putting back and being reintroduced are not going to carry, Pennsylvania.
Yo, I understand how it feels to be alienated due to your political views. Believe it or not, I come from a Democratic Party supporting family, and they absolutely hate my outspoken support for the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, the time I did an episode where I wore the shark tooth choker necklace, my black cards and my ghetto passes were placed under review. They might get revoked. I don't know. I'm still pending. I'm still pending the review. So yeah, they might take my ghetto passes for my support of Trumpito. It's crazy, and that's how Fetterman is. Luckily, Fetterman's constituents love him, even though this year Pennsylvania didn't vote blue this year. They traditionally have been. They're still voting for Democratic Senator John Fetterman because he believes in the same thing that his people believe in. And I kind of feel like I'm one of them type of Republicans right now. I'm not necessarily, 100% behind every single decision that this administration is making, but I support the party. Period. And I think that saying stuff like this party is supporting fascism and these are dictator moves, I think that spurs very violent emotions. Imagine, Nazi Germany was a completely divided country and it was tormented with horror. This is not the same type of country. We are not going through the same thing. As a matter of fact, the vote was given to Trumpito, so that means majority of the country is supporting the Trump administration, just like I do. John Fetterman was before he had a stroke, he was going through a lot of stuff, and while he was going through it, the Democrats was basically like, this dude's lost his mind and blah blah blah. He had told his aide that he needed to go see a therapist because he was stressed, and they took that and just ran with it. But if you lose motion on the right side of your body, he couldn't even talk good, and you go from having motion to not having motion, that is depressing. That's like one of the main depressing things that that we're scared of as we get older is losing mobility. And sometimes when people do it, praise God that he's a resilient man, he still got back out there to work for his constituents instead of just throwing in the towel. But now I feel like, come on over, Fetterman. They don't want you over there no more. Like, of course, like I said, once you come over here, Trump told me to tell you we expect you to not wear hoodies and basketball shorts. Dress up like you're a real politician. When you are a policeman, you wear the policeman uniform. You was a basketball player, of course, them gym shorts would be appropriate. But you are a politician. You need to dress the part. I don't care what you're going through stress wise. But since he's now wearing collar shirts, I'm saying, come on in. I jumped over too, and I had a lot of naysayers against me when I switched over, but I like the way that he's standing up for his beliefs. And a lot of times when you stand up for the things that you believe in, it's not going to be a glorious reception like you think. You know what I mean? But if you're standing up for what's right, it doesn't matter what people thinks. Period. I crack my jokes on here all the time, and I don't care what people think because I know in the behind the basics is of what I'm saying is based on truth and facts. Period. And that's my truth. Yo, make sure you tap that like and subscribe button. Check out my next videos. Tell me what you think in the comments. Until next time, peace.